Hello, my name is Michał. I am a veterinarian and have been working with these beautiful animals for 16 years. I mainly focus on reproduction and prevention. Today, I would like to talk to you about the uterus, as it is a very interesting and highly characteristic organ. Let's start with the structure of the uterus. The uterus begins in the vagina with the cervix. This is the first element that is the most challenging for us from a practical point of view. Why? Because the cervix contains 3 or 4 rings, meaning thickenings of connective tissue and smooth muscle, which are often difficult to pass through. For example, with a catheter during insemination, uterine lavage, and in several other procedures. So we have the cervix, followed by the body of the uterus, which then divides into 2 horns. This is why the uterus is bicornuate, and it ends with the oviducts and ovaries. Structurally, the uterus somewhat resembles ram's horns, as it curves in this way. There are 2 techniques for examining the uterus. Some prefer to examine along each horn separately, one and then the other. Others, like me, prefer to rotate the probe in this way and examine both horns at once. At this point, when we are scanning from the lower part of the uterus, remember that on the ultrasound image, we will see a cross-section of this part of the uterus and that part. This does not mean they are 2 different horns. It is the same horn, just its upper and lower sections. Depending on the stage of the estrous cycle and what structure is present on the ovary, the uterus behaves slightly differently. When there is a corpus luteum, meaning a high level of progesterone, the uterus is flaccid, with no fluid inside, or at least there should not be, and the endometrium is not thickened. When the estrous phase occurs, the phase where we have high estrogen levels, and also when ovulation, or the release of the egg, takes place, the endometrium here will be very congested and swollen. Inside the uterine lumen, thick mucus is often observed, which also flows outside. We can see it here through the vagina, flowing out because the cervix is open. It is worth noting that these 2 images are completely different. The resting phase of the uterus, the luteal phase, and the follicular phase, in which the uterus is highly stimulated. It often becomes firm on palpation, and mucus may be expelled during massage. What happens to the uterus after calving? It undergoes involution, meaning it contracts. The first hours are very intense, which can often be observed during procedures. For example, during a cesarean section, the uterus contracts so strongly that it may almost slip out of the hands. Uterine involution can be divided into 2 parts: the reduction in size and the involution of the endometrium, so the cellular histological changes. The histological involution lasts up to 42 days postpartum. Our goal in reproduction management is to prepare the uterus so that the cow can be inseminated as early as 50 to 55 days after calving. What challenges do we encounter during uterine examination? Various uterine pathologies can occur. We will not discuss all of them here, but among the basic ones are uterine inflammations. These inflammations can be simply divided in field conditions into 4 categories. E1, endometritis type 1, refers to cases that cannot be detected manually, but on ultrasound, with experience, we can see that something is present, usually more echogenic streaks, such as pus or very thick mucus. From a practical standpoint, distinguishing between E2 and E3 is not important, because the treatment is exactly the same. The 4th stage is pyometra. It can have different courses. The first type is when the cervix is closed. This is less desirable because pus accumulates inside, distending the uterus. Large amounts of gas and toxins are produced, and these toxins can pass through the uterine wall into the bloodstream, posing a life-threatening risk and causing systemic infection. The second type is pyometra with an open cervix, which is more favorable because some of the pus and toxins can drain outward. This means there is a lower probability that toxins will enter the bloodstream in amounts sufficient to poison the entire organism. Therefore, in closed pyometra, the first step in treatment is to open the cervix by administering appropriate hormones. On ultrasound, we see an enlarged uterus with various contents: mucus with blood, mucus with pus, sometimes draining externally. It often has an unpleasant odour, although it can also be odourless.